Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me is the man with the knowledge, the man who fills me in, who keeps me aware of all things that are important in the pop cultural landscape.
Phil, fill me in, Parrish.
Hey, Phil, so glad to have you back, as always. Could not do any of this without you. Okay, a couple things to talk about. And I've already forgotten all the things I said we would talk about today. But I know Black Panther poster controversy is one of them. But one thing I did want to... Phil, do you ever watch a show called Rick and Morty?
No.
No, me neither. But I spent the better part of last night watching YouTube video analyses of its philosophy, its structure, its story. It's an interesting series. I have seen a few episodes, I'm not going to lie. Mm-hmm. My kids love it apparently, and it's not kid appropriate at all. But nothing I let my kids do is kid appropriate, so I'm pretty used to that. Well, you know, they like the Cronenbergs. What are you going to do? Oh, what happened?
Nothing. I just turned the camera off for a second.
Okay, no problem. That's fine. Pick your nose in privacy. I understand. So I'm watching this, and one of the big things, and I'm just going to get a little nerdy on you. And there's two things I want to talk about here, but one of the nerdy things I want to talk about is at the end of the first episode of the third season, which was released on April Fool's Day, so take that as it is, it is revealed that Rick's entire motivation is trying to acquire Mulan Szechuan sauce for Chicken McNuggets. I guess back when Mulan came out in the late 90s, McDonald's did a promotion where they released the Szechuan sauce with a wasabi sauce, which doesn't make sense because wasabi is a Japanese thing, not a Chinese thing. But we're just going to let it go. This is McDonald's. They are not the most culturally woke company. But he wants to, and this comes this whole thing, and this has been a fly in my ointment because of my nerdery. Okay, Rick is an older man. He is a kid with a teenage grandkid. And for when Mulan sauce came out, it is not essentially for Rick to have a grandkid now. When Mulan sauce came out, Mulan sauce would be a millennial obsession, a kid who came of age during the millennium. Rick clearly is a Gen Xer. And if you're a Gen Xer, the age at which you eat a lot of chicken nuggets is probably going to be when McDonald's first came out with a teriyaki chicken nugget sauce with their Oriental chicken nuggets, which was in the 80s. And it bugs me that he's obsessed with the Mulan and not the original teriyaki chicken nugget sauce. So it's a thing for me as a nerd that I've become very obsessed with this concept, and the fact that there is this secondary theory that Morty actually eventually becomes his own grandfather through time travel, and that Morty is Rick. And to that extent, that makes the Szechuan sauce make sense because Morty is a millennial and may have fond memories of Mulan chicken nugget sauce. If as a very young child, he was allowed, I mean, really, he's not really old enough to have had it. So it's really an age gap. But technically, if we assume this takes place in the recent past, not the recent future, you actually could make the math work. And you could have had his parents just let him have and also maybe as a baby, he had the sauce, because the sauce you could eat as a baby because it's not a solid food. And that's what gave him his obsession. It's an interesting thing, and it's a way you could work out some interesting theories on this. And here's the thing I really want to talk about. We live in an age where you do not actually have to watch a show or read a comic book or see a movie to have deep and abiding thoughts and opinions on it. And this is something we were talking about, because we were talking about continuity. And I made the mention that, what we need is another Marvel Saga. Mm-hmm. Marvel Saga was this book I am obsessed with from the 80s because I read it, and that's what got me into comic books in a very deep way. comic books. But Marvel Saga was this time when someone said, I wish I could remember the writers on it right now, but I can't off the top of my head. But they were actually pretty big guys. And they basically took all of Marvel history and condensed it into a uniform timeline leading up to the 25th anniversary when they completely threw away their old solid timeline. Because it's important to remember, Marvel used to have a very solid timeline going from the 60s to the present era. And, they would say, oh, it's only like 10, 15 years. But you could really make the argument because they had people tied to time. Frank Castle fought in Vietnam. The civil rights movement was a thing when it started. Things happened tied to moments in history. There were anchor points in history that were important to characters. And Marvel Saga was this way to sort of unify a continuity and a theorem on why things were in the Marvel Universe. And so at that time, all of the ideas that were canon at that time, like the Thing can't change back because of a mental block because he feels that Alicia wouldn't love him anymore, or that, Wolverine got the claws when he got the adamantium. These were codified there. I don't know if the clause thing was in there. That's always controversial, but it was written in the Marvel Handbook, which is my other source. Marvel needs to bring back a unified Marvel Handbook, not as a trade paperback, but back. I miss pulp comics. I miss cheap comics so much.
Mm-hmm.
My friend's son told me recently he loves the Flash, and he would like to get Flash comic books. I would like to get him Flash comic books. But I think that if he did not have a patron as an adult who would go out and spend, $3-4 on a comic book each month for him, would a kid get into comic books? And to this extent,
that's been my big argument with this whole price thing. Yeah, I mean, it's bad enough for, grown adults like us.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, remember when you got into comics as a child, it's because they were a cheap source of,
Yeah.
Now, I mean, all these big companies, they say they want to hook the next generation, but how are you going to do that with, these ever increasing prices?
Yeah, well, I guess they do it with the cartoons and the movies, but then the continuity is all screwed up, So,
mm-hmm.
And it's just this weird thing. And like I said, I wonder if it would be cheaper if you went back to printing on pulp paper.
Mm-hmm.
If you went back, in fact, if I ever win the lottery, I'm going to open a comic book company called Pulp Comics. And that's going to be our shtick, is we print on pulp paper, and it's cheap unless I find out that it's actually not cheap anymore, and it'd be just as expensive as the high gloss comics we buy today. In which case, this dream will die, sadly, on the vine. Always wanted to start my own comic book company. That's one of my big dreams. Okay.
But I think at least with the big ones, like to get the pulp paper back, you have to get all of them to do it, because one of them isn't going to go, no, we're not going to print on the cheaper paper, because everyone's going to flock to our competition because they have the nice glossy whatever.
I don't know, man. I like the pulp paper. I like the
yeah.
And I like that it's comic books. The problem has always been the collector's market.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the problem with comic books today, is that they're written for the collector's market, not the mass market.
They're written for trade paperback too. That's why you get all those big arcs. You hardly ever get a one and done.
Yeah, that's true too. Oh, well, yeah, we'll usually get it between arcs, Which is really.
They wonder why they're selling more trades than they are individual issues.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want a whole story, you're going to get like 6 or more issues, and it's like, okay, well, it'll be easier to just get it all when it's put together in one trade. And hey, look, I can just go on Amazon, hit a couple buttons, and there's my trade.
Well, I think that they're inherently split on that, because on the one hand you have, we have this arc that you get in your trade, but then you also have the reality that for any big arc, it's not just in one book.
Mm-hmm.
The interconnectedness of the universes are pretty big. If you don't go into that universe and look around, you're not going to see what you need to see. And that to me is important, because like I've always said, if you don't read a certain book, you get a very different perspective on the big arc. I don't know which book is the book you have to read for the Secret Empire story arc. Although I get the feeling it's going to be one you least expected. It's like when you read Loki and you had a better understanding of what happened in Fear itself. Because there was this extra data in a little side book that was honestly written for nerds, because it's very fourth wall-y. When you're in that world, it's a very different thing. And if you just get the main books, you're going to miss a lot of stuff. I don't know. It's interesting and it's a conundrum, but I think the basic problem for comic books is they charge too much and they give too little.
Well, see, I've argued the other side of the issue too. I said if one of the big companies, Marvel, DC, even Image, if one of them found a way to lower their prices, like say one of them even went to like $225, wouldn't they destroy the competition?
Well, only if they had good writers and artists.
Yeah, but I mean, wouldn't numbers wise, wouldn't they sell a lot more books than their competition?
I mean, entirely possible. One of the things I think that made Marvel a dominance is the fact that you had one guy, Stan Lee, who was sort of throwing out the grand arcs. And that's not to say Stan Lee works alone. He had other guys who did a lot of the heavy lifting on the writing. All the artists did a lot of the writing. There's no doubt on that. But the fact that they didn't have like 10 guys on the masthead, so for every book you have one writer.
Yeah.
And that writer writes that book and he gets paid for that book. And then you have to have another writer who gets paid for another book. And if you just have a Stan Lee, he puts his name, he gets paid to write like 10 books.
Yeah.
Because you're buying in bulk. And I think that one of the biggest problems for them in going to that pulp model is I don't think they can pay the talent on the pulp model. I think that if they go down to that cheaper paper, they're not going to be able, they're not going the amount that they can bring it down on the cheaper paper is not going to pay the writers and artists a decent wage, which is an issue now, You got to pay people for this stuff. It's not like podcasting where we do it for the love of the game, Podcasting, this is where true art lies, because we're just here for the love of the game. That's what we say. Okay. Anything you want to add to the conversation, Phil?
I don't know. Just the whole thing with the price. It's like, would you rather sell one book at $3.99 or you might sell two books at $2.25? I mean,
yeah. Well, $2.25. Goodness, we haven't seen a 5 in comic book pricing in over a decade.
I know. My glory days were $1 comics, and that's before first George Bush put the tax on all the paper products. So $1 comic, no tax. You just slap down your dollar, get a book.
So it's all George W. Bush or George H.W. Bush's fault. That's what we can come back to, is that George Bush. No.
That's why he lost. That's why he lost that. That's why he only got 4 years.
Yeah, well, exactly, man. We can tax a lot of stuff, but don't tax our comic books.
Came for the nerds.
Yes. They came for the nerds, and we said, don't even try it. Kicked them out of office. We'll see. We'll see what the nerds rise to next. Okay. Speaking of nerds rising, there was quite a bit of controversy recently about the Black Panther poster. Hey, did you see this?
I don't know if I heard this. No, what is this?
Oh, you didn't hear? Okay. So you see the Black Panther poster, right? With is the problem photoshopping? Because you can tell that's Photoshop. No.
Okay.
Oh, Phil, is this a world where people?
I mean, they all are. They all are.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Of course, it's a superhero picture. Nobody's abs are that good. That's what I'm telling you right now. No, what is at issue is there is apparently a very famous photo. I want to say it's of Huey Long, but one of the founders of the Black Panther Party. And it's him in a chair, holding a gun and a spear, and sort of looking at the camera in a stern face. And everyone says, oh, they're referencing the Black Panthers with Black Panther, and this is a anti-white movie, and look, they only have 2 white people in the beginning of the film. Head hurts. And I wanted to dissect this controversy a bit because, of course, this is the basic white snowflake angst of the world isn't catering only to me anymore. But more to the point, it shows an inherent misunderstanding of the art of a photo. And first off, if you actually look at the two photos side by side, they don't look anything alike. The throne is very different. First off, one is a wicker throne with the oval on top. The throne in of Wakanda has the oval on the bottom, and that's to sort of give you that whole, wild animal tusk thing coming up. His legs are turned a different way and he's turned a different way. The look is very, very different. Also, Black Panther has nothing in his hands, whereas the guy in the Black Panther photo, like I said, has a spear and a gun in his hand. And the thing is that what you're looking at here is a king on a throne photo. And every king on every throne is going to look pretty much similar. And that's what Huey Long is, and I hope it was Huey Long. And I apologize if I'm remembering with the wrong Black Panther here. The guy in the original Black Panther photo, he's being a king on the throne. He is saying, I am representing my people. I am a ruler of those who follow me, and I am putting strength forward. Black Panther is likewise a king on the throne, putting his strength forward. But it's not a reference to that. It's a reference to, Renaissance art of kings on thrones. Because you would be hard-pressed to find, Queen Victoria on the throne looking very, very similar. So maybe this is all about Victorianism. And there is a point in that. Something to think about as we discuss this. The opening lines in this with T'Chaka of the trailer has him saying, "We are coming to a world where there will only be the conquered and the conquerors," which actually suggests that Wakanda may be looking to conquer some people. I don't know if they're going to go full Hydra Cap on Black Panther in the universe, but they don't have an anti-hero like Namor at the moment. They have the rights to him, but they haven't put him out there. Making Black Panther this anti-hero, this guy who says, "I fight for Wakanda, not all y'all," might be an interesting take on the character, might be an interesting story. If Black Panther uses his wealth and power as he moves out into the world to be a conqueror, maybe a peaceful conqueror, maybe an economic conqueror, but still a super powered conqueror, essentially one of that powered elite 1% who rule over us all in these comic book universes, even if they don't seem to be. That's an interesting take on the character, and one that I think could make for some great, great story arcs, especially when you look at it within the concept of, the idea of, the rulers who we assume are good, but who do evil things to do good. As a parallel to Hydra Cap, Hydra Cap very much believes he is doing good. He's doing evil, but he feels that evil will do good, which is why he is associated with the Punisher in the Hydra Cap storyline, which is why he is part and parcel with the Punisher now, because they are both men who say, "I do evil, but it is for a greater good." And at a certain, yes.
Well, maybe the whole thing with Black Panther is, remember in Civil War, T'Challa's father was, all about the Sokovian Accords, and maybe T'Challa is, following in his father's footsteps, and he's just saying, if we don't eventually take over the world, these American superheroes are going to destroy everything.
Well, and that's a noble point, but you need the firm rule of a Black Panther to be a beneficent king. To be a man who will use his absolute power totally wisely, if you can trust him. And that, of course,
it'll be the whole "do the ends justify the means."
Well, exactly. Well, that is the crux of all political structure. Because you can even do that on the opposite side. If our ends is freedom, does fighting for freedom truly justify the freedom we'll get? Freedom or oppression both come with the price of blood. And, the honest answer is probably want a little bit of oppression and a little bit of freedom and as little blood spilled as possible, so long as we actually get to a place where people can actually live a life. But whose life is a good life? It's always, I want my life not to change, but I think everyone else's life should. The rich should be...
Plus, it'll be who follows the Black Panther, because it'll be like, yes, he's a person of color, but as a royalty, he's probably in the 1%. So it's like, okay, is this another rich guy telling us how the world's going to be?
Well, exactly. Oh, he's everything. He's a rich guy. He's an industrialist. He's this. He's the smartest man in the room, and he is literally. One of my favorite, and I can't even remember it, but it was just Reed and Black Panther having this conversation about the wizard and about how, the wizard's prime motivation is that he wants to be the smartest man in the room, and it's all consuming. And Black Panther and Reed are like, said that he feels he's the smartest guy in this room. And, Black Panther is like, and Reed is like, yes, it is sad that he thinks he's the smartest guy in this room. And it's, there's the two guys who are, brilliant geniuses. Who is smarter? We don't know. Probably the difference is negligible. That's the thing about intelligence, is that as you get smarter, there is a law of diminishing returns, which means that the difference between having a 50 IQ and a 100 IQ is not as much as the difference between having a 100 IQ and a 150 IQ. The difference is the difference that you'll notice gets less and less as you go higher on the scale. But that is the Black Panther, and I think I for one welcome our new Panther overlords, and hail Wakanda. Okay. See, and that wouldn't be controversial, and that shows you that craziness of politics, man.
Well, see, my whole thing was like the whole poster thing. It's like, I'm sure there's some crazy white people out there who, were looking for this, but also anytime anything like this comes up, I'm like, could this be maybe Warner on the Warner side? Because, hey, they finally got a good movie with Wonder Woman, and they're like, can we finally knock Marvel off their pedestal a little bit?
Well, actually, I think the start of this was actual African-American people saying, hey, this reminds me of that photo. And again, it's just because, yes, it's two King and the Throne photos with black guys in it. So, yeah, in the sense that, yes, they're both black guys on chairs. Yes, they are very similar photos. Looking into the camera, they are very similar photos in that respect. But as an overall, but of course, once someone says it as a positive, because someone's saying, hey, isn't this cool? They're referencing this. Then other people get upset. Oh, how can they reference that? And of course, Disney is like, yeah, we took our $1 billion blockbuster tentpole February film and decided to associate it with a really controversial political stance. We do that all the time,
because that's what big businesses want: controversy.
Exactly. They want cheers. They don't want boos. They want likes, not dislikes. That's like Donald Trump. He just wants the likes, and it very much vexes him that he gets the dislikes. Shouldn't have gotten into politics. No, I'm just saying, no, he shouldn't have all politics aside, he shouldn't have gotten into politics if you don't like being disliked, because nobody likes politicians, and the minute you go into politics, you're a politician. You can't be not a politician if you're in politics, and nobody likes politicians. You have some people who like politicians. We all like certain politicians, but even Bernie wasn't universally loved. Oh. And he's a grumpy old man, and people love grumpy old men.
You can't win in politics. There's always going to be a group of people who don't like you.
There will always be. No matter, you can be the smartest politician or the dumbest politician. There's always going to be someone who dislikes you. And if you're just that perfect meaty middle politician, everyone says, oh, he's just some middle of the road guy. I hate that.
Heck, we're in the age of the internet. I mean, you could have the most benign thing, and there's going to be somebody who doesn't like it.
Yes. So, yeah, and that is the truth of it. I mean, that's the great thing about the internet is suddenly you have an opinion, and a million people get to see it. It is the equivalent of standing on a box in Times Square, but people actually hear you.
Everyone has a voice now.
Yes, it is weird, and what are you gonna do? Okay. Tragic news, which we're going to talk about on Capes and Lunatics this week. Adam West passed away.
Yes.
Actually, what we found out, Adam West passed away just as we finished last week's episode of Capes and Lunatics. And we're going to do a very nice retrospective special of us talking about how much we like Adam West and the things he did. But it has surprised me. And again, you get this feeling sometimes with Facebook. It's like, am I just in a nerd feed that this has become such a big story? Because it's like, not for nothing, I get the feeling like Adam West's death is bigger than Prince's death.
It seems like it.
It seems like it. And I'm like, and I love Adam West. Don't get me wrong. He was a very talented actor. I mean, he was known for Batman, but he did other things later. And it's like Shatner, where you get known as an actor who's a bad actor because iconic role. Yeah, you get that iconic role, and then everyone over exaggerates and overthinks it. But of course, what was great about Adam West is that he surfed right into the curl.
With the Joker.
With the Joker. Cesar Romero, my favorite Joker.
Painted right over that mustache.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think the Joker should have a mustache. I think I would love to see the Joker grow a mustache. It would be great.
Big green handlebar mustache.
No, it could be white. It could just be the same color as his skin. Because who knows why his hair turned green? Honestly, who knows why his skin turned white? None of it makes any sense. And of course, when you have what's his name, the guy who actually wasn't even dyed, he just painted his face.
Oh, Heath Ledger. Yeah.
And actually, Cesar Romero's Joker also. You saw him in a couple of scenes painting things on his face. He was painting on his lips and such. So, Joker wears makeup in some iterations. I don't think the dipped in acid idea came about until some point later. That's a modern invention. That might even be something that came about with the Killing Joke. I don't know. It certainly got codified after Tim Burton did it. In his origin, but I believe the idea that he was thrown into a vat of chemicals and that turned his skin white and his hair green might actually stem from that. At least as far as canon, I think that might actually stem from the Killing Joke. I think prior to that,
there was a story earlier they did. I have to look up the issue number, but yeah, they did the whole thing where he was the Red Hood and he got dropped in the vat of chemicals.
Yeah, but wasn't that first established by guy with the beard? What's his name?
Alan Moore.
Alan Moore. Yeah, I was confusing his name with Grant Morrison, which is like ridiculous.
I think they might have did a simplistic version of the story first, but then like Alan Moore kind of like fleshed it out and became like the definitive Joker origin. Although the Joker even says in that story, he says he remembers he's so crazy. He doesn't even know who he was because he remembers his origin different every time.
Yes. Oh, and speaking of Jokers, I don't want to go too much longer because we do have Capes and Lunatics to do, and we've already gone a little about a half hour. What is going on with this evil Batman? And evil Justice? Is DC just ripping off Hydra Cap with Batman now?
Well, I guess I just skimmed this yesterday because I wasn't home most of the day. But I guess they're doing like a dark multiverse, so they're getting like all these evil versions of Batman. Which struck me first was like, what are they doing? Hydra Cap. But then also it's like, are you also ripping off Star Trek, like the Dark Mirror universe?
Well, I mean, they've done the Dark Justice League before. Yeah. They've had that for a while. I forget which Earth that is. I want to say that's Earth 4. I don't know.
But yeah, I guess they're doing like a whole different multiverse where everybody's evil, and then you're going to get all these multiple versions of evil Batman.
Yeah. Okay. So it's basically the Spider-Verse meets Hydra Cap smashed together, where it's all the villain versions of the hero come together for one mighty.
And that way you don't need the controversy of turning Batman evil.
Yes. Unless the evil Batman takes his place in Gotham. Oh no. Who knows? Okay. And evil billionaire Bruce Wayne, who I have said that man sells babies. I guarantee it. There's an orphan trade. I got all these orphans in Gotham, man. And sometimes I think Batman's just creating them by killing all these hardworking, low-level thug villains who had a family at home they were trying to support. That Batman's a menace, I tell you.
I keep thinking about you because we bought Lego Batman for Luca, and there's like I think it's Barbara Gordon in that keeps saying says the line about Batman beating up on poor people.
Yes. Well, that's what he does. He's not a good man, but that's my opinion. What's your opinion, good listeners? Do you hail Wakanda? Do you welcome our new Panther overlords? Do you think Batman must be stopped? And Wonder Woman is just the woman to do it? What do you think? Please like and share and comment. And there's a bell thing now on YouTube where you'll get a notification because we're posting this to YouTube, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a bell thing. You hit that, and every time we post something, you're going to get an annoying message on your phone. Is, hey, these idiots said something else. And comment down below about what an idiot I am and how, Black Panther and Batman are both good people who would never use their powers for evil. Okay. Any final thoughts, Phil?
No. Way to sell it. Way to sell our YouTube. Yeah, these idiots.
Yeah. Well, I find that most comments on YouTube are about how stupid the guys commenting are. And we don't have, guys know we don't have a slick, fancy intro or laser beams or cartoon switches. We do no editing. This is all just live. This is reality television. So that's that. If you would like to write to us, Phil, how can folks write to you if they don't want to comment publicly but want to just have a one-on-one moment with you?
Well, if you want to get a hold of me personally, it's nightwingpdp@gmail.com, and on Twitter, I am @nightwingpdp. I can also email capes and lunatics @gmail.com, and we even have a voicemail. If typing keys is too traumatic for you, you can always just dial our voicemail, 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. We'll have Facebook Live content going up. I already did too, so please follow us on Facebook. You'll get extra content you don't get anywhere else.
Okay. And of course, you can write to me in an old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitters when I live tweet something. I don't know. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. By the way, my pick of the week this week was Gwenpool. I don't have the issue in front of me, so I don't know the exact number. Gwenpool was amazing and wonderful, and she breaks the universe, literally. Or breaks her universe by breaking the fourth wall. Honestly, it is such... I don't know, man. I think Gwenpool saves Hydra Cap. That's my prediction. But pick it up, read your Gwenpool, kids. That may be the book that you have to read to get the super secret understanding of what's going on in the Secret Empire. Okay. Thank you for connecting with us, ladies and gentlemen. Please connect with us again. Good night.